Hello, my friends. This is Dr. Ginny Barrow, and welcome to Start the Day with Ginny. This morning, I am preparing to travel. I'm going to New York City to be with one of my partners, Alliance Bernstein. By the time you hear this video, most likely the event has already passed. But I want to share with you today one of the topics that I'm going to share with my client today. And that is the topic of and the concept of building your centers of influence and what that means and the benefits to you to building your centers of influence. I have been in the business, as you know, for over 30 years. And I remember that when I was a junior in college, I was part of the Inroads program. And one of the workshops that Inroads had was on networking. And I remember how it made an impression on me. And from the minute I graduated from college as a 22-year-old young woman and professional, I was very intentional about developing relationships with people around me. Many years later, 20 years in leadership, over 26 years in the corporate world, and over 30 years of industry experience, in hindsight, I realized how powerful that workshop was. Because I've noticed that while some of my peers may struggle to advance and grow in their careers, what I had learned in that workshop set the foundation for me to build a career based on relationships. And so if you already do this and this is natural to you, kudos to you. I recommend that you mentor other people that are in your purview to also develop those relationships because you care about them and you want to see them succeed. And if you haven't taken that tact yet, if you haven't gone into developing relationships intentionally, almost as if your career depended on it, because in my view, it actually does, this is then your invitation, and this video is for you. Developing relationships has so many benefits. I call it being intentional about building your army of allies, if that resonates with you. You by yourself are one person fighting that battle, looking for people to see what your value is, looking to advance, looking to grow and develop in your career. And that's just you trying to open doors and windows so you can walk through or climb over. What would happen if instead of being only you, you now had an army of people who understood your unique value, how you show up, how you do your work, who believed in your abilities, who can advocate for you. So when you're not in that room, they're the ones telling people, I love the kind of work that Ginny does. Every project that I work on with Ginny, she delivers. She's clear in her communications. She follows through. She's strategic. She's also tactical. You're not going to miss something if Ginny's on your project. That is part of your personal brand. Your army of allies help you promote and elevate your personal brand. The people in your centers of influence are also the people who are going to bang on the table whenever they're behind closed doors and they're having conversations about who to promote, who to give that increase to. They're going to go to bat for you. And I was very lucky that my mentors and especially my sponsors were those people who would bang on the table on my behalf. And I know because when we would get together, we would have conversations about what was happening. And so having those sponsors who gave me opportunities, Rich, Mike, other leaders that were in my leadership roles who I had to interact with and I built relationships with, my managers, these were the people who were in my army of allies. My peers were also in that group. Building relationships with your peers is very important because do you want to work with someone who people don't get along with? If you don't get along with someone, it's going to be very difficult for you to get behind someone getting promoted or someone getting more responsibility, because if you're part of that culture, you realize how ineffective this person can be when it comes to leading other people. But if your peers are on board and they enjoy collaborating with you because you're always looking to help them and you're looking to improve the business and you're looking to progress and advance the projects that you're working on, those are the kinds of people you want in your corner. You want them to be in your corner and you want to be in their corner. So you want to make relationships with your peers and have them as your allies. And if you are a horrible manager and people don't want to work for you, that will also be part of your personal brand. And people will run for the hills whenever they hear that, oh, we are looking to promote Ginny to this new role where she will have more people to to manage, right? You don't want to be that manager that people cringe when your name comes up. So building great relationships, mentorship relationships with your team, sponsorship relationships with your team, it's going to be important for you to advance and grow in your career as a leader, for you to promote and elevate your personal brand, as I mentioned. And if you don't have sponsors, if you don't have mentors, there are two different roles, right? Sponsors are senior leaders who can actually give you an assignment and make you the head of something, right? These are people with influence in your organization. Mentors are guides, they're sounding boards, they provide advice. They may not have the same clout and seniority as a sponsor. And in some cases, like me, I had both my sponsor and my mentors were both in the same person. And other stakeholders across the organization can also be parts of your centers of influence. I'm speaking about people who you are interacting with in your role, but there may be in a different department, perhaps operations or finance or compliance or legal, whatever the case may be. You want to develop relationships with other stakeholders outside of your department with whom your function interacts once in a while or frequently. So in a remote workplace, how do we do this? How do we build relationships? Well, I have to say, and I'm sure you would agree, that many of us are not good at building relationships even when we were live, face to face. Now that we're remote, we're realizing, oh my goodness, I am not good at this, right? So how do we make building these relationships more intentional? Exactly that way. We get very methodical about it from a place of connection and contribution and curiosity, not from a place of obligation. It really requires us to get curious about the people around us and the genius and the expertise that they were hired for. I'm asking you to build genuine, authentic relationships with people who you interact with because of your role, people who you respect because of their expertise and their value and how they carry themselves as a person, as a professional, as a manager, as a leader, and that you be strategic and authentic about connecting with them. And in the cyber world, we do it via a 15-minute cyber coffee or tea is what I recommend that my clients connect with their centers of influence. And now that we are back to the office in some cases, that you make it a point to connect with people for a coffee or lunch, because everybody has to eat at some point during the day, and you connect with them in person in the office whenever that day of the week is that you go into the office. Make your 15-minute, 30-minute, quote unquote, connection date so that you get to know your coworkers, you get to know your manager better, you get to know your peers, you get to know even your manager's peers because of the job, the projects that you're working on. That is your point of connection. And when you reach out to them, simply ask them, Ginny, I know we're working on project ABC, and I would love to hear your take about XYZ. Or, Ginny, I know that we work on this project together, but we really haven't gotten to know each other very well yet. Would you be open to a 15-minute cyber coffee or tea? And you will be shocked at how people would say, absolutely, Ginny, 15 minutes? I can do 15 minutes. If you ask people for 30, an hour, that may be a whole different story. But 15 minutes, anybody can give you that. And at the end of the 15 minutes, you can say, you know, our 15 minutes are up. If you're okay, we can continue because I have a few extra minutes. If not, that's okay. If you enjoy the connection you had with one of the people in your centers of influence when you connected over your 15-minute cyber coffee or tea, then follow up and be proactive. At the end of your 15 minutes, you can say to them, Ginny, I really enjoy this. Would you be open to me connecting with you in a couple of months and we could have another 15-minute cyber coffee or tea? And I would say, absolutely, that sounds lovely. And you go back to your calendar and you put on your calendar, connect with Ginny in 2 months. So you put it 2 months out, connect with Ginny, reach out to her about cyber coffee or tea. And that's it. That's how we become intentional about building our centers of influence and building our army of allies who will protect us and become that fortress so that when things go awry, when people start speaking, when you know what, they can go to bat for you, they can defend you, they can pound the table when you're not there and support you in advancing your career. Now, notice that none of this will happen if you're not a good performer. None of this will happen if you are someone who is difficult to work with, difficult to collaborate with, difficult to lead, difficult to follow, difficult to be around. So with love and compassion, be honest with yourself, look around you and take some indirect feedback. How do people react to you? Are they usually happy to see you? Do they usually express, thank you so much for doing this or that? Or are people kind of like, oh, there's Ginny. Great. Start increasing your social awareness so you can look around and see how people are reacting to you. Because how they're reacting to you is a way to share with you your personal brand. This is how people perceive you. This is how people feel after they have interacted with you. And if from that indirect feedback, you notice that, I'm noticing that when I walk into a room, people hush. It's almost like silence takes over the room when I arrive. What is happening here? And if you notice that, get curious with vulnerability, reach out to your manager and ask your manager about if they could describe you, what words would they use? And do that with your friends. If you could describe me, what words would you use? And that's going to give you a very clear idea how people see you. And then if you have someone that you really trust, small group of people that you really trust, ask them, I'm really interested in discovering where I stand with my personal brand. I already have one. I just want to get clear as to what that is. And ask them, what do you hear people say about me? And please be honest with me because I'm trying to enhance my brand. So any feedback you could give me that could be valuable, constructive feedback, I would be so grateful for. And then you zip it and you listen and you don't criticize and you don't get angry and you don't get upset. You simply listen and you take all that feedback and you take it back and you decide what has merit and what doesn't have merit. Not all feedback is created equal, as I say in my book, Healing Leadership and Fearless Women at Work. So take that feedback with a grain of salt. Look to see if there's themes in the feedback. Oh yeah, I see these similarities and I see this completely. This is an anomaly over here. But you will start to see themes around the feedback. Take that, digest it, and then decide what you want to do. And if you need support in doing any and all of this, you can always reach out to me at callwithginny.com. And if you want to join our community and stay plugged in to valuable strategies that I share every week, you can join us at executivebound.com. Live with purpose, live with joy. I'll see you soon.